I wanted it all. All. I wanted money, I wanted power, I wanted fame, everything. I wanted to be tall, handsome. I wanted to be smart, I wanted to be educated. But more than anything, if I'm honest with myself, I just wanted to matter. My whole life I felt like I was in the wrong place. My whole life I felt like nobody had the same interests that I did. I come from an immigrant family. And when we were young, my dad got sick for a prolonged period of time. The financial hardship that happened as a result of that, it set our family back for more than a decade. But I promised myself that when it became my turn, when I became an adult, that I would do things differently. Yes? I promised myself that when I entered the working world, I would make up for all of those problems and I would make a lot of money. And I did. I did make a lot of money, but I cut corners. I worked with the wrong people. I compromised my values, and before long, I was in a scary financial hole, facing serious legal proceedings. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed my family. I had to rebuild my life, my finances, everything. But there was this place at the bottom. A place when I was putting my life back together, when I realized there's a question in my mind, it's been there the whole time, and now I've got to answer it. How do you know that the thing you're doing your best at is the best thing to do? Viktor Frankl is an Austrian neuroscientist, a psychologist, and a Holocaust survivor. Before him and his family were sent to horrible concentration camps, he was the head of neurology at his hospital. But in those Nazi concentration camps, he was forced to do hard labor. He had famine, sickness, disease. His mom was killed. His brother slaughtered. His wife murdered. He himself nearly lost his life, but in his book, he still writes that even in the worst situation, the most inhumane situations, even when hope seems like it's gone, life still has meaning. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, has sold over 12 million copies worldwide. And he's got this beautiful quote where he says, everything can be taken from a man except for this one thing. And he calls that the last of the human freedoms. And that is your freedom to choose in any set of circumstances what your attitude is going to be. He's got another quote. I like this one because it illuminates what he truly believes. He says, when you are no longer able to change your circumstance, you're challenged to change yourself. I felt lost most of my life, but I was never tortured. I always felt like I was in the wrong place, like people didn't have the interest that I did. I grew up in a bad neighborhood. I was a shy kid. No one in my family was involved in business or cared about the things that I did. But I was never starving. I never faced disease. But thank you, Viktor, for teaching me that even when I'm way up here or when I'm way down there, that my freedom to choose my next set of actions, my freedom to act and react in alignment with the things that are important to me can never be taken away from me. How do you know that the thing you're doing your best at is the best thing to do? I now know that it starts with me in the ways that I act and react to the challenges that life brings my way. Abraham Lincoln is considered to be one of the best presidents that ever lived. He was the one who abolished slavery. But before he became president, he was a young man with ambition. He actually didn't have a lot of formal education. He was pretty broke. But he had an opportunity to start a store with an older businessman. All he had to do was come up with 50% of the money. So he borrowed the money, and they started the store. They were optimistic because it was a booming economic time. But there was another store across town, better one. Better deals, stronger ownership. And within a year, his business was shut down. Abe had to pay back that 50% that he borrowed to start the business. But then soon after, the older gentleman that he had started the company with, passed away. Do you know what Abraham Lincoln did? Abraham Lincoln not only paid his 50% back, but he took up the debt of the other man who had died, even though he didn't have to. Historians tell us that it took over 10 years for him to pay that debt back. He has a wonderful quote. I just love it. Abraham Lincoln said, "I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I'm bound to live up to the light that I have." But why, Abe? Why? Why would you choose failure that you didn't have to choose? See, my whole life I thought success was over here. And then failure was all the way over here. And my goal was to travel that road to success, not even looking at failure. I was afraid of failure. I didn't even want to look at failure. Why would Abraham choose failure? Failure that wasn't even his. But I realized, as I picked up the pieces of my life, that there's actually 3 kinds of failure. And one of those kinds of failure, it actually paves your path to greatness. You need it. First kind of failure, I call it destructive failure. Destructive failure is when things fall apart, they don't go your way, it doesn't end up the way you'd hope, but your goals and the actions you took to fulfill your goals were outside of your highest values. Hear me, TEDx, there is no form of greatness that happens outside of your highest values. It's impossible. The second kind of failure is called true failure. You're going to like this one because all you have to do to avoid true failure is to get back up. True failure is suffering a setback and saying, you know what, that's it for me. Tapped out, I don't want to do it anymore. But as long as you get back up, you can recover from even destructive failure. But the third kind of failure, this is the one that I didn't even know existed. This is called constructive failure. Constructive failure is when things don't go your way, things completely fall apart, but your goals echoed within the chambers of your highest values. And all the actions that you took to pursue that goal, they line up with your values as well. Has anyone ever heard the Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times and get up 8 times? Wave at me if you've heard that there. Okay, so that's most of us here. So I realized that I needed to get up, but I forgot about the fact that I need to fall. Because when you fail inside of your highest values and you choose to get back up, you get resiliency. You get courage. You get wisdom and knowledge. You get all of the things you need to pursue greatness. Has anyone ever heard that to be successful, you need to operate outside of your comfort zone? Anyone heard that one? Most of us again. Well, I realized that it's not that simple. Albert Einstein said, make things as simple as possible, but not simpler. There's a beautiful dichotomy, though, between comfort and discomfort. So when you're taking an action, you want to make sure you're as comfortable as you can be inside of your highest values. You want to make sure this is something that your heart beats for, something you think that ought to be the impact you want to make on the world, something that's inside of your worldview. You want to be as comfortable as you can be inside of your values. But you want to be as uncomfortable as you can be inside of your actions. How do you know that the thing you're doing your best at is the best thing to do? Well, I now know that I need to fail. I need to choose actions that my heart beats for in situations where I'm probably going to fail, for the beautiful opportunity to pick myself back up, because that is the path to greatness. Michelle Obama is older than her husband, Barack. In fact, when he was a summer student, an intern in law school, it was at her law firm, and she was his advisor. Barack writes that he asked her out so many different times, and Michelle kept saying, it's like all the women, Michelle kept saying, okay. Well, finally, we know how the story ends, right? One day, she said yes. But the car that he picked her up in, this is in his book, he said it was so rusty and so old that the rust had actually eaten a hole in the passenger side of the car. She said that when you were driving, you could actually see the road go by as you drove. But maybe this is why Barack Obama didn't have a lot of money. Because when he graduated from Columbia, one of the best schools in the world, rather than pursue a 6-figure job like a lot of his peers, he chose to be a community organizer in one of the worst neighborhoods in America, the South Side of Chicago. There he worked with other community organizers to take drugs off the street, to put people back to work, to end the violence and the cycles of violence and poverty that had plagued that neighborhood for so long. When Michelle and Barack got married, he spent the first 10 years of their marriage running for office. It put so much strain on the relationship that Michelle said, I will not support you when you run again. This is it for me. And if you do run, consider this marriage over. But he did run again, right? He became president, and Michelle supported him every step of the way, because Michelle Obama's life is not about comfort or convenience. It's about values and sacrifices. Michelle Obama, she's a great woman. She has been named, according to YouGov, the most admired woman in the world. Her book that she just brought out has sold more than 10 million copies. It's the best-selling memoir ever. And her book tour, it was grossing over $1 million a night. But Michelle, how did you know? How did you know that when you had a broke guy with a rusty car who you were his boss, how did you know that he would turn into who he was today? How did you know when your marriage was falling apart and you said, I can't do this anymore, I will not support you? How did you know that it was the right thing to do? Oh my goodness, Michelle, my whole life, I always felt like greatness was hidden or far away. It was something that I had to uncover. It was something that was at the end of steps. I thought I would make money. Then people would respect me. I thought I would get education. And then people would pay attention to what I had to say. I thought I would make a name for myself, and then I would matter, that I wouldn't be nothing. How do you know that the thing you're doing your best at is the best thing to do? Well, I now know that in every moment that I'm in, I have to purpose that moment to create the most value inside of my highest values. I didn't pursue money. I didn't pursue fame. I didn't pursue all of those things because I was lazy. I pursued them because I thought they would give me the things that I lacked. Confidence, respect. I thought it would make a name for myself. I thought that I would be relevant. But what I've learned is that it's not about doing this to get that or looking for something or searching for something or hoping to get somewhere. It's about in every moment that you're in, projecting your highest values to create the biggest positive impact and legacy. Things have changed for me now. There's only one thing that I think about. I used to want money. I used to want fame. And I expect to be successful. I expect to make a name for myself. But they're not the things that motivate me anymore. With my life, I want to become the best possible me, and I want to make the biggest positive impact. Sound like a good choice? Yeah? Okay, so help me out here. I'm going to say best possible me, and then you're going to repeat it after me, and then I'm going to say biggest positive impact, and then you're going to repeat it after me. You got it? Pretty simple. Here we go. Best possible me. Biggest positive impact. Man, that feels good. Okay, we're going to do it a couple times, so stay with me. So many lessons I had to learn. So many beliefs I had to challenge. So many patterns of behavior I had to unlearn. But I don't think the way I used to think before. I know that greatness happens in all of my actions and all of my reactions. And I purpose my actions to create the best possible me and make the biggest positive impact. I was so afraid of failure. I tried to live a perfect life. I tried to avoid failure at all costs, but now I've learned that there's a certain kind of failure that I need. I need to take on the hardest things I can find where I'm most likely to fail, but the actions and the goal are inside of my highest value to become the best possible me and create the biggest positive impact. All of my life, I was searching for greatness. I was wondering, how am I, a kid that loves opera music and hip-hop music, a kid that's from the hood but wants to live in a great neighborhood one day, a kid who loves art but a kid who also loves science, someone who loves business but doesn't even know where to start. Where's my place? But I learned, I don't need to worry about where I'll end up one day. I just need to, when I'm with my partners, when I'm with my clients, when I'm at the gym or planning my nutrition, when I'm in traffic. In those moments when I'm alone and there's no one around to see what I do, am I living up to my highest values to create the biggest positive impact? That's the question. How do I know that the thing that I'm doing my best at is the best thing to do? I ask myself, if this moment, the moment that I'm in, was the only thing that my life was based on, and am I okay with that representing everything that I am? Am I bringing my talents, passions, and values to create the best possible me and the biggest positive impact. So how do you know? Seriously, how do you know that the thing you're doing your best at is the best thing to do? You won't always know, and that's okay. You're still going to achieve greatness anyway, because in every moment that you're in, from now on, you're going to bring your all to create the best possible me and the biggest positive impact. That sounds incredible. What a thrill this has been for me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.